Is this your image of lifting and manual handling? That it's all about big, strong guys lifting huge weights? That it doesn't affect you? Well, think again.
No matter what we do for a living, we'll all find ourselves in the course of a working day faced with the problem to varying degrees of lifting and moving things. Even little old me. Now, of course, if you're a removal man, because that's what you spend your day doing, you're likely to think pretty carefully about how you do it. It'll be the same if you work in the stores. Getting things on and off shelves and moving them around is part of your job description. But if you're there to get that grub on the table, hot and well cooked, what do you need to know about lifting? And what are the physical hazards of working in an office, other than the tea from the machine? You're not likely to break your back if you work on an assembly line. And you're not going to injure yourself being mine host, are you? Or are you? Injuries do happen. They happen to big guys in warehouses and small women in offices and everyone in between. But they can be avoided. Manual handling, lifting particularly, is not about weight, it's about posture. It's not what you do, it's the way that you do it.
That's a very good start. It certainly looks easy, but all you have to do is go on for the ride. This is going to be a very fast time. 12.155 seconds.
Our backbones, our spines, carry the load whether we're lifting a weight or just going about our daily business. So even though I'm not carrying anything at the moment, my spine is still carrying a load of about 50 kilos. Actually, we're about 20 millimeters shorter when we go to bed than we are when we get up, because the daily load compresses the discs in our spines by that much. These discs provide cushioning in our spines and are just a few millimeters thick. Inside, they're like a jelly. Put too much of a load on one, as when you're bending or twisting, and this jelly may get squeezed to one edge of the spine, just like what happens when you bite into the side of a jam donut. Really overdo it, and the jelly can burst out through the edge of the disc and press on one of the nerves that come out of the spinal cord, what we call a slipped disc. If that happens, you'll feel pain. Even though the injury is in your back, you may well not feel pain there. It might be in your leg, your side, or even other parts of your body. Back injuries can develop over a long period of time, gradually getting worse. More than a third of injuries resulting in more than 3 days off work are caused by manual handling. In fact, on average, each injury keeps the person involved off work for 20 days. You can damage your spine, or the muscles in your back, or give yourself a hernia just as easily by lifting a box of files in the office as you can by delivering a grand piano. Most times, it's a failure to think ahead that causes a great deal of harm. So it's best to break down your manual handling tasks into 3 parts: planning, preparation, and performance. So let's start with planning.
Plan of attack was fast in, drop and just keep pushing, and it worked.
Always plan your moves before you act. Injuries so often happen with unplanned lifts. People starting a task rather thoughtlessly, then getting stuck in the middle of the job. Don't be complacent. And don't be deceived by the size or appearance of a load. A large box may be light, and a small box can be unexpectedly heavy. And identical looking boxes can contain very different loads. So take nothing for granted, both for your own safety and for those around you. See what I mean? If you're moving things about as part of a group, for example, work out who is doing what before you start. Don't try to muddle through. Before you set off, look at where you're planning to go, whether the floor surface is going to be rough or uneven, and whether you'll need to go upstairs or down a ladder.
There's the starting block, and the wheel rises on it, and it gets dragged backwards.
So, to avoid problems, make sure you've checked your route. After planning comes preparation. What can you do or use to guard yourself against damage? If you know you're going to be spending the day moving stuff around, and like me, you have a tendency to drop things on your toes, then you could prepare by wearing some sensible shoes. Are there sharp edges on what you're about to move, or staples sticking out that are going to stab you? Are you going to get splinters? It's frighteningly easy to cut yourself with just paper. Putting on a pair of gloves is easy enough preparation, and of course, in some cases, there are very special rules about what you should do. You can do things to prepare the load you're going to move if need be. Make sure it's not going to fall apart on you. Inspect the packing and make it more secure if you need to. And you can prepare by being equipped with mechanical means to move things. Bear in mind that if you're delivering something outdoors, the piece of kit you're using must be able to negotiate curbs. So don't just grab anything with wheels and hope for the best. That one? Having planned and prepared, it all counts for little without proper performance. Sometimes mechanical aids are not needed, or are just not practical. You've just got to do it yourself. So let's take a look at how to perform a safe lifting technique. And for this, I'll need my glamorous assistant, Gary Taylor. Gary will be demonstrating performance. And Gary's first piece of advice is...
You should always stand as close to the load as you possibly can. The closer, the better.
Loads can come in all kinds of shapes, sizes and weights depending on where you work and what you do. Gary here is used to pulling trucks and lifting atlas stones, but today the loads are going to be slightly easier to deal with, but no less hazardous if you're not used to doing it. Right, Gary, do your stuff.
What we shouldn't be doing is lifting and twisting at the same time. That's the way to put more stress on your back. Imagine a wet chamois leather or wet cloth. As you wring it out, ouch! You don't want to be doing that to your back, so therefore let the floor do the work. So you can position yourself correctly and lift safely.
Boxes often have the weight written on them or are colour-coded to indicate their broad weight. But even when that's the case, it is very important to know just how that weight is distributed. That's because loads can be very awkward to balance. So again, take nothing for granted.
Examine the object, not only to check the weight, but the balance. We know the weight of the object, we know where the weight is. But to be certain, test it.
Rocking the load tells you not only how heavy it is, but how that weight is distributed. The load can be off-centre, making lifting awkward and potentially dangerous. A good example is an overhead projector, but things like microwave ovens and televisions often have uneven weight distribution. A boxed item can also be very unbalanced. It's best not to find out by dropping it. A load slipping when being carried is a prime cause of hand injuries.
Ready?
Ready?
Bend and lift onto the table. Good.
Whether the load is boxed or not, you should always examine and test it before trying to lift it. You've examined the load and you don't want to drop it.
Plenty of chalk on the hands for extra grip.
As they say, get a grip. It's up to you to decide which grip is most comfortable. I prefer to place one hand under, one hand around, and keeping the object close to my body, lift as such. Just look at my technique. If you lift by bending your back, you're straining your spine and using the small muscles that support it to lift.
These small muscles are not designed for lifting, and they can only contract about ½ an inch or so each, so they will easily tear. And as they support the spine, this will make it easier to eventually damage the spine as well. So help yourself by using the most powerful muscle that you can.
Lift with your legs, not your back. This is the muscle to choose. In fact, it's the largest and most efficient muscle in the body. And boy, have I got one. So use it. Keeping your back flat, your head up, 1 foot in front of the body for balance, keep the load close to you. As you lift it, I don't know what she's going to use this for.
Even if you hold the weight firmly to your body, you're forming a lever at the base of your spine. Now the leverage is 10 to 1, so if the object weighs 1 kilo, then you're placing a load of 10 kilos on the base of your spine. If you move the 1 kilo weight out in front of you to arm's length, the leverage becomes 100 to 1. That's a load of 100 kilos on your spine. So lessen the strain on your spine by holding the weight close.
Remember to lift the load slowly, keeping it close to the body at all times. But more importantly, remember not to twist. Where would you like them?
Just stand there, please, Gary. So, you've lifted the weight properly, you know your route, and you can see where you're going. Always an advantage. There's one more thing to consider, and you're going to like this one.
Just take a rest break.
Yes. 4.24. Tremendous time.
Ever noticed how a weight that seems comfortable at first will really make you ache if you hold it in the same position for any length of time? That's because the waste products in your body created by exertion cause pain. Your muscles need to contract and rest as well as expand to get rid of the buildup of these waste products. So you need to rest and make sure you don't hold the same position for too long.
Don't try to be a hero. Only lift what you feel comfortable with.
Carry many small loads rather than one large one. And don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. Gary?
Ready?
Yep.
And bend, and lift, and together, and down. Good.
Always be prepared to get help when a lift fails, for instance. Okay, Gary, let's sum up. First, plan ahead. Stand as close to the load as you can. Examine the load. Get a good grip. Lift from the legs, not from the back, and don't twist. And make sure you can see where you're going. And remember, it's not what you do.
It's the way that you do it.